Good day. I think nice to see you, Neetu. Nice to see us back in action. I think it was an interesting conversation that we had as part of our business conversation series
Yep.
around business coaching. And I think that the topic that we covered last time was around, is business coaching a cost or an investment? I think a very important question, because a lot of entrepreneurs do struggle with their business and their growth, and they do get referred to mentors and coaches, but they always have this perception that it's an expensive proposition. Can I afford it at this stage of my business journey? Can I afford a mentor or a coach? And I think that was the question that we tried to answer in the last video. And but I think one thing that is still very not very clear often in entrepreneurs mind is, how does business coaching actually work, right?
Correct.
And I think that is what we're going to be talking about a little bit more today in today's video, brief video.
Okay, so then let's start with the starting. How does business coaching actually start, CK?
I think the starting is always the most difficult part, right? And let me talk from experience over 10, 11 years, because more often than not, as business mentors, coaches, we are going into an organization. Quite often, we're going into an industry that we ourselves don't know anything about, right? I
Hmm.
worked with so many manufacturing companies. I worked with so many IT, hardware, the education, healthcare firms. I'm not an expert in those industries. Nor are we. Both of us are not experts in those industries. But it's very important for us to understand where that organization is in that particular space that they are in, right? What stage are they in, and how big is that industry for them? Who are the main competitors, right? Uh, what has worked for them? What's not worked for them? Uh, Meeting up with the CEO, the founders, the co-founders, sometimes multiple founders, meeting up with some of the leaders of the various departments if it's a reasonably mid-sized organization, and trying to figure out what has worked so far and what has not worked so far. If they've reached out to a business coach, there are two reasons, right? Either an entrepreneur is struggling with the business, or an entrepreneur has got ambitions to grow very fast but does not know how, right?
Got
These are two typical scenarios when a
Correct.
business coach would be approached, right?
Absolutely correct.
Now,
Yes.
when we go in, like I said, we're going in from scratch. So what the approach that we need to myself normally follow is that we have a very structured business health scan, right? Just like when we're going for an annual medical checkup, we go for a health scan which covers 15 different areas of your body, to
Hmm.
know that okay, 12 of them are working fine, 3 of them are not working fine, right?
Got that.
So when you go to a specialist, then the specialist knows that I need to only focus on these 3 areas, right?
Hmm.
Now when we're going in, we are going in blind. So it's very important that we do this health scan. It's a document that we follow very in a very organized manner. We take feedback from the founders, we take feedback from some of the leaders, and it covers different facets of the business, right? From how big is the market, who are your competitors, right? Your Is your sales strategy working? Are your marketing and branding strategies working? Is your HR organization structured properly? So it covers so many different aspects of market coverage, of product strategy, of employees and their team, the work culture. So within about a couple of sessions, we have a reasonably good, honest assessment from the client in
Hmm.
terms of what's working well and what's not working well.
Got that.
And I think to us, that is the starting point, because we cannot go to the next stage without knowing exactly where we are, right? And given the fact that the entrepreneur has been in the business for the last couple of years, maybe sometimes 10 years, 20 years, sometimes 2 years, 3 years, they know the industry so well, they know the competition so well. And once we also get that kind of understanding, we bring in that external view in terms of asking questions which are logical, right? So how big is the market? Why are you so small? What's stopping you from growing? And I think it's those kind of questions at the initial stages that open up the mind, that look, we've been doing it so far, but has that been enough? So our role as business coaches in the initial phase to starting is to get the entrepreneur and the team to start looking at the business very differently from what they've looked at so far,
Got that.
from an internal focus to an external focus. Yeah, so I think I think that is really the starting point of any business coaching engagement, as I see it.
Fantastic. And then, of course, after the starting point, after the starting of that, if we have the planning stage, right? Now that we have assessed the organization and we have identified opportunities, we've identified gaps, we have identified challenges, etc. Now we pick up and say, okay, which are the areas are we going to start working on now? Obviously, we can't work on everything at the same time. So we kind of identify which of those areas require what kind of resources and what's the impact it will have if we work on that area. What is the impact it will have on the business? And based on that, we would select one, two, or three, a primary goal, a secondary, and a third goals as such. Right? We define, now that we've got the goals. Now we start defining on what are we going to do? What are the activities that we need to do to achieve those goals? Who's going to be responsible for it? Who's going to lead that? What kind of resources he or she will require? What are the systems that we need to put into place to achieve those goals, right? How do we measure them? And how do we measure if they are online, on time, or how do we measure if there is going to be a deviation? So this is the planning stage that takes, and how ultimately how long will it take for us to achieve those numbers, right? So this is the planning stage that goes on for each of the organization, and this is where we require the buy-in of the entire team, not just the business
Absolutely.
entrepreneur, right? Because they're including the execution, the leadership team and the execution team. Because what's the use of sitting and planning this whole thing out, and the team that's going to be rolling out says, hey, this is not going to be possible, or I don't know how to do this, right? So this is a time where we get the buy-in of the entire team that's going to be involved in this. And it's very crucial, because without this, the entire assessment that we have done, the entire planning that we have done till now will be completely derailed, right? So that's the
Absolutely.
planning state, and it can take quite a few hours time, right? Sessions on that. It's not a small Excel sheet exercise that we kind of do that, right? After this planning stage, only after we finish the entire assessment, we finish the entire planning stage, do we actually move into the execution of the program, of the entire coaching assignment.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
would you want to take that up now?
Yeah, see, in fact, a lot of the clients I've worked with, we've worked over the last couple of years, they always say, we have never spent so much of time planning. We're always firefighting. We're always trying to, meet this month's target, somehow get the business going. We've never sat back and looked at the business holistically, planned in so much of detail, clearly defined goals for every team, every department, clear accountability, like you mentioned, Neetu,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody should own up to the fact that this is the way they're going to go forward, right?
Correct.
And I think great planning always ends up with, good results only when it is executed properly and it's also reviewed and tracked properly.
Correct.
So one of the things that we do as part of our business coaching engagement is that we have a very structured process of, reviewing with the team either once a week or once a fortnight, depending on how big the business is or how big the team is. And in those reviews, we focus entirely on executing those plans, right? So that whatever actions have been agreed, whichever team leader or owner has taken that particular responsibility is questioned week after week or every fortnight as to where are we on this? Where are we on this? What's working? Is it working, not working? If it's not working, what needs to get done? What are the corrective action? So what happens then is that great assessment, great planning, and great execution. All
Correct.
three, I think. And I think then that is when you actually start seeing the results beginning to come in. It may take 3 months, it may take 4 months, it may take 6 months from the time the engagement is started before the results are visible.
Got that.
But
Yes.
like any good building, it needs a strong foundation to be built. And I think the assessment and planning phase is building that foundation. The execution phase is ensuring that the building is going up properly. Right?
Correct.
So I think business coaching ensures that all the three elements fit into place.
Correct.
And without execution, I think nothing is going to work.
Obviously. Obviously. Great. And that's all. So now that we've understood what is business coaching and we understand what actually happens in the business coaching, I think one of the areas that we need to touch upon, maybe we should do that in the next video because that's quite a lot of information there that we can share, is there a one size fits all for business coaching? Obviously, no, right? There are different approaches based on the stages in which the organization is, be it a startup, being a growth phase, or even a recovery phase. So that's the topic that we will be talking next week, right, CK?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because each stage requires a totally different approach, totally different treatment, and I think that is a topic by itself. So I'm sure I think we should cover that in the next one, so that the people who are following our series will get to get small bites of different facets of business coaching. It's such a vast topic. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Great. So with that, see you again next week right here. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah. Bye.